Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions. Today, we discuss the peak of Olympus, the apex, the summit. This is the top of the collection in FP Journe's catalog. Launched in 2019, this is the Astronomic Souveraine, the most complicated FP Journe wristwatch ever created in the capstone of his legendary career. It is the direct result of 14 years of research and development, and since 2019, somewhere between 3 and 5 and 5 of 8, or 5 to 8 have been made each year. So even assuming a worst case scenario of 8 of them made each year, it's important to remember that there have been other variants. Well, this is the base case in steel with a white gold dial. I have seen precious metal cases and I have seen different dial designs. So the total production is broken up amongst a couple of different micro runs of variations. So the chance of finding any given one is even lower. The watch is 44 millimeters in diameter in steel. It's 14.1 millimeters thick. It is 54.8 from lug tip to lug tip, and it has a fairly standard 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and wears beautifully, comfortably, though a bit large. I'd recommend your wrist be a little bit bigger than mine. Once again, my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference and flat across the top. There's your down the barrel shot. There's your over the top shot. And then here's your cuff shot. It is actually sloped in profile to slide under a cuff. Definitely a jacket and even quite a few dress shirts, but you do need a bigger wrist. I recommend 17 centimeters circumference and up. Most Journe watches come with a pin buckle, but at this level, you're getting a full folding clasp in matching stainless steel. The strap is high-grade OEM, a Journe factory strap with large rectangular symmetrical scales on the top, a very expensive premium cut of the animal. Dark gray, folded edge, monotone stitch. There's a little bit of a bolstering or stuffing to give it volume. Then you can see small round scale on the bottom, which is what the best brands are doing these days, as round scale is more durable, costs more, but also lasts longer. The lugs are drilled close to the case to make it fit a little bit better on a small wrist by bringing the pivot centers further inboard toward the center. But to prevent any kind of impediment to the motion of the strap, curved spring bars are used, and then those spring bars have pull tabs so you can quickly remove the strap from the case without tools. And you can see that the strap is a brand new Journe factory strap, no crimping, no gouging. The case is familiar. In fact, it's been around since the original tourbillon remontoir, the first tourbillon souveraine of 1999. The case has proved adaptable. Here it's in a larger scale. You can see that 14.1, not all that thick, considering the movement itself is almost 10 millimeters thick. And then the watch is 44, but the movement is 37, so it's a big movement and it needs a big case. You can see the famed Journe double dimple and knurled unbranded crown, the mid-case defined by the overlapping flange of the domed bezel and the domed case back, and then blended lugs, Calatrava, and Portugueser style. Everything is polished. Stainless steel, of course, chosen because it makes for the best propagation of sound. And because this is a repeating watch, it's like the Répétition and the Souveraine Sonnerie, which was, in each case, a chiming watch. And so this watch is designed to chime as loudly as possible without being destructive to the tone. So there are louder repeaters, think JLC or Girard-Perregaux in titanium, but this is also designed to be a sonorous, lyrical repeater. 18 functions overall. Let's quickly go through all of them. So the watch has a power reserve indicator via twin barrels. It's got a 40-hour power reserve. You want to keep the indicator in that little cream-colored streak of the arc, because that's when the remontoir constant force device is operating. And if you have any doubts, look at the scrolling deadbeat second system. If it is beating deadly, then the remontoir is active. We have a photorealistic moonphase that uses a photo actually taken by NASA. We've got sidereal time. So sidereal time is the passage of a single star 2 times across a meridian of longitude. And a sidereal day is not 24 hours, it's 23 hours and 54 minutes and approximately 4 seconds. And so that's what this dial displays. Now we've got 2 different time zones here, and I cannot overemphasize the primary time is the gold hand. So you can see the minute hand is gold, that's the minute hand, and that is the hour. And you need to remember that because the local hour is the basis for setting the moon phase as well as the calendar on the back. For the moon phase, you don't want to set it when it's inside the hours of 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And with the calendar on the back, you don't want to set the calendar with the quick set unless you can see the sun in the sunrise, sunset, AM, PM window up at 12 o'clock. Now about that, there's actually a pair of shutters that move in from the edges as the days lengthen and shorten. And this is a system first conceived by Journe's son, Charles Journe, and he had this idea for shutters and a display of sun and moon. And so this one complication here is specific to where you are in the world. And so it was originally mechanically programmed for the home of the original owner of the watch. So just keep that in mind. It'll function just fine, and it'll act as your guide to the safe setting time for the moon phase in the calendar, but it's not going to be exactly the sunset and sunrise where you are unless you are in that particular place. Now, turning it all over, we have, as I mentioned, the quick settable moon phase. We also have a quick settable annual calendar that also includes zodiac calendar, and then there is a equation of time. So equation of time is the difference between mean time and true solar time. So for example, within a time zone, clearly moving east to west, when it's 12 o'clock in every part of that time zone, each part of that time zone is also going to see the sun in a somewhat different place in the sky. So true solar noon is that time when sun is directly over your head, whereas mean noon or clock time noon is that time on the clock when the hands are pointed directly at 12. So the difference between solar noon and mean noon, as an example, is going to vary from plus 15 to minus 15, and it's going to coincide. They're going to be exactly the same 4 times a year. So that is what the equation of time represents. Now you can see we have a 3 hertz beat rate with an enormous balance, with an enormous mass, inside a 1-minute tourbillon, and then you can see the remontoir d'égalité constant force device to ensure that for approximately 28 hours of the power reserve, the balance is receiving constant force, which allows FP Journe's watchmakers to regulate this free-sprung balance to an extraordinarily precise degree, and also grants it a degree of shock resistance. There's also an overcoil hairspring that makes it more resistant to positionally induced timing deviation. The movement's a monster. As I said, in rose gold, the caliber is 37 millimeters in diameter, has 68 joules and 758 parts. The 18 complications, a record for Journe on a wristwatch. And then the movement itself, finished to a degree you will not commonly find on Journe watches. I'm not going to lie, most Journe watches are finished with a level of integrity, but not virtuosity. Whereas here, yes, you're getting virtuosity. You're getting that level of finish that you expect at the top end from Ferdinand Berthoud, from Lange&Heine, from the best of Grubel Forsey and Debetun or Romain Gauthier. You're getting that level of decoration here. So for your roughly $1 million new, $2.5 million pre-owned, you're getting the most accomplished level of Journe watchmaking. And one of the reasons the Sonnerie was discontinued was to free up the bare handful of people at Journe's factory who can actually build and regulate and service these things. So I would recommend that you consider it to have absolutely no water resistance, and then you will be safest. I would also recommend that if you are going to set it, keep this in mind. First position, you wind the watch. Pull it out one clutch position, counterclockwise will adjust the moon phase, and clockwise will adjust the annual calendar on the back. Remember, no annual calendar unless you see the sun in the aperture, no moon phase unless you're outside the hours of 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Pull it out again to the final stop, turn counterclockwise for the primary time zone, clockwise for the secondary time zone, and then always push the crown back in and never have the crown out of its flush position when you're operating the minute repeater, which is super important. A watch that is of surpassing beauty and significance. This may be the last truly King Kong complication that Journe releases in his active career as a watchmaker. He's spoken of interest in teaching master classes, and he's generally a man who follows his heart. I believe him. This watch is an instant classic, and provided you can float this boat, the capstone to any collection. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.